a quick story on President Ford. It was like 105, and he was like, 91 or 92, and I mean, everyone's telling him, like, I don't know if you should be playing out here, it's a little hot. He's like, nope, I'm playing. So we're on number 5, and he hits his 5-iron. I'm standing there, he looks back at me like usual, and he's going like this to hand me the club, and I just see his knees buckle, and he's falling right at me. I look back like this, and I see Secret Service flying up, and we lift him up, put him into the cart, and they race him back off to their fleet of Suburbans. 30 minutes later, it's on CNN. President Ford collapses on golf course and sent to Eisenhower. My heart's racing right now just thinking about that moment.
Golf Smarter number 785 is brought to you by Get Mister, makers of The Daily, the first dermatologist-developed health brand helping men build their healthiest skin without the hassle of multi-step routines. Visit getmister.com, Getmr, getmister.com, and use Golf Smarter to unlock their limited-time exclusive offer of 25% off your first purchase. More on Get Mister coming up. And a little setup on today's interview, because even though the tease and the title of this show is really good clickbait, it's just part of the story. During April and May of this year on Golf Smarter Mulligans, you're aware that we're featuring our past interviews with Tony Manzoni. Well, today I'm really excited to introduce you to someone whose life was changed by playing golf at College of the Desert for Tony. People regularly ask me what my favorite interview was on this podcast, and I usually tend to favor incredible stories from regular people. This is now in my top 5, so let's get started. President Ford collapsed in my arms on the golf course, and more Caddy stories from J.J. Resnick.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Greene.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, JJ.
Thanks, Fred. Happy to be here. Beautiful day.
Beautiful day. It's springtime. Yes, time to start playing golf again. We're actually, to respect COVID situations, we're in my backyard. So the dog is going to go, I want to play with the ball. We're not playing with you right now, Moxie. Go away. And so we're just sitting out here having a chat because I don't even remember how we got put together. Somebody asked me about.
Yeah, it was another guy I went to school with down at College of the Desert. He reached out to me and said, hey, I listened to this golf podcast. This guy talks about Tony Manzoni all the time. You'd really enjoy it. And I think he also lives in the Bay Area by you. And so I look you up and reach out to you, find out you live
around the corner.
20 houses down.
Yeah, exactly.
In the Bay Area. I mean, what are the odds? On
I
the
don't
golf
know.
course.
Just in our brief conversation before we started recording, there's a couple times we said, what are the odds of that?
I know.
So
that's how we got connected. So I guess, I started stalking you and said, hey, I'm your neighbor, we should meet.
Yeah, well, when you said you played at College of the Desert for Tony, it was like, I really would love to hear something from you about that and your experience and what you learned from him, and because he's taught us so much, and he was such a great teacher, and we miss him terribly. So how long were you at College of the Desert playing golf
there 2 years
with Tony Manzoni?
Yeah, and really the backstory starts out a bit sad. After high school, I was a bit of a lost kid at that time, like many of us, right? But so my best friend growing up through high school, he ended up going down to College of the Desert right after high school. I ended up staying back in Portland at the time and not doing much of anything, trying to figure out what I was going to do with life, right? But we had both played high school golf very competitively, and he had gone on to College of the Desert to play for Manzoni, and was one of their top stars. You know, he was destined for the tour. His name was Ryan Wegeman, and he ended up, he was killed in a car crash.
Oh my gosh.
Down there. Yeah, and March 5th of the year 2000, just a couple months before his 21st birthday. And yeah, so that, oh man, it's tough just thinking or talking about that. But
yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, though, you look back later in life and, you know, you see how everything kind of happens for a reason. So that was my motivation. I had been talking to Ryan just a week before he had passed about him trying to get me to come on down there and play for Tony. And, you know, it was really intriguing to me. I liked the idea. Hadn't committed to it yet. After he passed, that was it was like my sign, right? Well, this has got to be, and I'm just going to do it. Jumped on a plane, flew down, registered for classes, and I was there that fall. And so, yeah, it was, a bit of it was like wanting to do it for Ryan, and of course, also to kind of turn my life around and find some meaning. And that's really where everything in life changed for me. And Tony Manzoni probably played the biggest role in that transformation. But gosh, I got a little lost there. But
no, that's okay. I could see that it's understandable that you'd get emotional thinking about Ryan and Tony and the impact they've had on your life.
Right. So yeah, would you like me to just tell you a little bit about, you know, what happened once I got there? And
absolutely. I was going to ask. Tell me, did you walk on? Did he know that you were coming? Did Ryan already tell him about it?
He knew, and he played a bit of a push. You know, I didn't need too much of a push to get me down there, but I had heard so much about Tony, and so, gosh, when I met him, he blew away all my expectations of what a college golf coach would even be, and ended up becoming more of a just life mentor.
Wow.
More than anything else. I mean, there's little things I can tell you about the golf swing that he changed. I had always been self-taught and went down there, and, you know, it was just the little pointers. I'd be on the range and he'd walk by and stop for a minute and just ask how your day's going, and, you know, those kind of things. And then quick little pointer on the golf swing that would just change everything.
So he wasn't a Bobby Knight kind of coach. He was very compassionate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he wanted to know, you know, what you did last night, hear about your night out partying, or, you know, and you'd go into his office, and he was like another one of the boys. But at the same time, yeah, he had that just charisma about him, and his character, if you don't know him, it's hard to explain. But yeah, so the first thing that I was shocked by was when I got down there that very first week, he invited me over to his home, you know, in Indian Ridge. And he had this beautiful home, you know, and I'm kind of in awe at the time, because it's like, wow, this is like one of the founders of Callaway Golf, and, you know, he's taking an interest in me and devoting all this time. And he took me out to dinner, steak dinners, and it was it was almost surreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go out to dinner and then he'd go, yeah, you want to come back to my place? And it'd be a Friday night. And it was one of those things you wouldn't think as a 20-year-old that you would have more fun going to your 65-year-old golf coach's house. But it was more fun than if I could have gone out with other friends down there for the weekend, you know, just because the stories you would hear. I mean, he had stories for days that he was like best friends with Joe Pesci, and he would talk about the crazy wild nights of going out with him in Hollywood, all the days with Sinatra, and throughout the Frank Sinatra tournament that went on down there, which he was the, I don't know if he was the host or he played a major role in that because he brought myself and other team members out to caddy for, you know, that was his job, was to kind of organize all the caddies for the tournament. And gosh, I'm kind of going all over the place with it.
It's really, it's quite amazing because, you know, I had a relationship only through the podcast, but became friends with him and was very concerned for him as he got older and got ill. And I'd heard about Sinatra. I didn't know about Pesci. He told us great Sinatra stories. I knew that he kind of got hooked up with those guys, the Rat Pack in the 60s, and it had a negative impact on his potential in professional golf as a player.
Right. Yeah, no, it definitely did. I mean, there were, I don't want to say too many things, but you know, it was cool just being able to relate to a guy in that position of power and a coach like that, to hear him tell you these stories that it's like, oh wow, he was young one day too, and he really lived it up.
Yes, he did.
We'll leave it at that.
Oh, come on, man. No.
Oh man, he's not around to
dispute it,
defend himself. Or,
well,
he wouldn't want to, I guess, anyway.
No, he would have told us.
Yeah.
Give us one you think you could share.
Gosh. I mean, it's tough to go into any specifics, but just hearing the stories of some of the drugs and the...
All right, so that's... Why don't we take a time out and we'll be right back. So I'm excited to talk to you once again about The Daily by Get Mister. Now let me clue you in on something interesting about the wonderful world of podcast advertising, which, like podcasting, exploded in 2020. First of all, surveys show that podcast listeners support advertisers who support their favorite shows. So let me thank you in advance for checking out Get Mister and taking advantage of their generous introductory discount offer. But in all the years I've been reading ads for a wide variety of sponsors that aren't golf-related, from hard alcohol to underwear to car rentals, there's only been a couple that I've actually spent money on myself. Usually I get complimentary samples so that I can do honest testimonials. But there's only been 2 instances that I can think of where I actually purchased the product myself. One doesn't count because it's my nephew's razor blade company. I'm sure you've heard of them, and I don't think it's nice to mention them here. But The Daily from Get Mister is the other. I can't tell you how much I enjoy using this product every morning. First, it's an aftershave that doesn't sting or stink. Secondly, it's a moisturizer that in the month I've been using it, even my wife has commented on how good my generally dried out face has looked recently. And thirdly, and most important, it's an SPF 30 sunscreen. The Daily is the first FDA-registered 3-in-1 formulated skin health brand for men that was developed by a dermatologist. And let me tell you that when you go to getmr.com, Getmr, getmr.com, you may see the price and think, whoa. But remember, it's one product that takes the place of 3. It's FDA approved, and most importantly, it works. Also, think about it. You're worth it, right? Well, that's why you need to take advantage of the 25% discount when you use the checkout code Golf Smarter. And there's urgency here because that's a limited time offer. And if you just want to buy it to try it out, next time do what I just did and save even more when you subscribe to have it delivered every 1, 2, 3, or 4 months. Now, I don't mean every month for 4 months. I mean, they'll do it every 4 months if you want. But when you subscribe like that, so you buy it 3 times a year or 4 times a year or 6 times a year or every month, you're going to save money on that purchase. They say that using the daily each morning should last around a month. So when you go to their website, an offer will pop up, but it's not as good as the offer I'm giving you today. So support a quality product that supports Golf Smarter and take advantage of the 25% off your first order with the checkout code Golf Smarter at getmr.com, GETMR.com, and use the daily every damn day. I'm supposed to say hashtag every damn day. Well, I was pushing a little bit too hard on that. I did not know. I mean, I know that he partied. I know it was the 60s and 70s, but I didn't have an idea of the extent. So let's...
I think they all dabbled a little, but you know, it was all in fun. And, you know...
He had a great life down in Palm Desert, didn't he?
Yep, he did. A lot of fun, but, you know... The guy had the biggest heart of anybody that I've met. And, you know, although I had gone down to College of the Desert and life had changed in a major way for me, I was still going through a tough time. You know, I was 20, trying to figure out what I'm going to do in life. I knew I wanted to play on tour. But I also was... We're kind of in a dark place in some ways with my friend Ryan just passing and trying to deal with all that. So, you know, Tony really took me in, as I told you, and one of the best things, something he did for me that changed the entire course of my life. One morning we're sitting in his office at the range, and I said, Tony, I got to make some money. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I got a call from a friend of mine, and this guy is opening up his own private 19-hole championship golf course here in Rancho Mirage, about 2 miles down the road. And he's got 300 acres up against the mountains.
Oh, my gosh.
And... he's like, yeah, he's actually opening it up next week. He had been under construction for a couple of years. So...
It was like private country club private? Or
no, private
personal,
like this.
My backyard.
He put a gate up, you know, 4 walls, or 4 like mile-long walls. And so it was a country club for this guy in his backyard. And
that's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So he's telling me about it, and I'm just thinking, okay, I can't even begin to imagine what this is going to look like. I show up the next day, and security is out front, which I find out was Secret Service, or ex-Secret Service, that this guy hired. So I find out his name's Tim Blixeth, and he ends up... So I go pull through this driveway, or through this gate, and I start winding through what is like a tropical paradise. It's like you just were transplanted to another life. And being a huge golfer that I am, I'm just like, jaw dropped as I'm trying not to hit the curb as I'm looking around. And no joke, it's about a mile drive from going through the gate till you pull up to this structure, which was his clubhouse with locker rooms. And
how many lockers could he possibly have?
Yeah, he had maybe like 20 lockers in there, and he had a pro shop, like equipment. I mean, you talk about, yeah. And there's, and he had hired his own PGA pro who was he had retired from La Quinta Country Club, who, I came to find all this out in the coming hours after I arrived there. But the guy's name was Davey Evans.
Okay, because we've had Davey on the show because at the end when Tony was trying to create this academy, it was with Davey and one other. Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So if you ever want to get in touch with him, I think if he's still around, I've got his contact.
Davey, I've stayed in touch.
Oh, okay.
I'll go into Davey too. So, yeah. So no, Davey and I haven't talked to him now in about 2 years. I know he had a stroke, I think, a couple of years back.
Boy.
But anyhow, back to Porcupine Creek was the name of this golf course. And yeah, so I go up on the driving range. There's this little guy that's about 4'10" on a good day, and that turned out to be Davey.
Yep.
He's up there giving instruction to a guy in just a white polo shirt and some khaki shorts, and he's the only two people up there on the driving range. I go up and I'm Tim. Nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh, this guy owns his own country club, his own golf course, and he still has a dress code.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So he starts asking me about my life for a few minutes and what I'm doing down there, and he says, "Okay, well, I'm looking for a caddy. First round, our inaugural round out here, 9 a.m. tomorrow."
No golf carts. He's walking this golf course.
No. He has these crazy custom Hummer golf carts. They're lifted and they're like $25,000 golf carts.
What did he need you for then if you're not carrying his bag?
Oh, because you got to have a caddy, right?
I don't know. I guess so.
To look the part, and to impress your 3 friends that you have over or your foursome. So I find out, I could go on for hours and hours, but anyhow, we don't have that much time today. So we both find out that, he grew up in Portland. He was on welfare as a kid, this guy, and grew up in Roseburg, Oregon. I show up, he says, "Okay, we liked each other, we hit it off, right?" So he says, 9 a.m. tomorrow. God, Fred, I wish I would have known we were recording outside. I would have brought a jacket. It's getting cold out here.
Next break we take, I'll get you one.
So yeah, we hit it off, and he says, 9 a.m. tomorrow is our first round. Show up then. And I wake up, show up. He says, "JJ, I'd like you to meet Bill," who turns out to be Bill Gates. "And I'd like you to meet President Ford."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Bill Gates Sr. Was with Bill Jr. And so this was the start of the rest of my life, and just some crazy times ahead. So
let me scrape my jaw back up here. And you had not walked the course yet. You couldn't give any tips on putting or anything because you didn't know the course yet, but they wanted you to be the personal caddy for the 4 of them? Or was you just...
Yeah, for the 4 of them. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. And what year was this? Gates was already...
2001.
Oh, okay. So Gates was already... Yeah, that was...
Oh yeah, he was the wealthiest man in the world.
Yeah. Was he a
the time.
golfer? Did he?
No.
No.
No. He was.
I can't imagine Bill Gates.
He wasn't a tipper either.
Yeah. Oh. What about Senior?
Gosh, I gotta watch my tongue.
No, you don't have a beer.
No, neither of them. What shocked me the most, being a 21-year-old kid at that time, I mean, I'm in awe, obviously. I'm introduced to a whole nother world that I'm not used to, and but he pulls away in this 1987 C-Class Mercedes, and I think he gave me $10.
Gates?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was taken care of very well by Tim. I think the first day I left with $210.
Wow.
Which was probably the least amount of money I ended up making over the next 2 years being there. But yeah, this became, so I know we don't have much time today, but I ended up working for Tim for the next year and a half, and ultimately I'd say I worked with and around Tim for the next 2.5 years, but I then became President Ford's caddy full-time. Anytime President Ford played golf for the last couple of years of his life, he would do it at Porcupine Creek because...
Private.
Yeah.
You didn't have to deal with anybody.
And a great story about that.
Why don't you hold that story thought? I'll go get you a jacket. We'll be back after this.
Sounds good.
Okay, this is much better than going into a drug story.
Yeah.
So now here you are. You're working Porcupine Creek. How many days a week you working there?
Well, I mean, it was whenever Tim was in town, so...
Oh, okay. I mean, people just didn't... Gerald Ford wanted to play golf, and
well, that happened after,
Tim wasn't home. He couldn't go unless Tim was there.
That started to happen, and that's how I ended up becoming President Ford's personal caddy and would just work for him for those last couple of years of his life. But
wow.
In the beginning, when Tim opened the course, it was that first couple of weeks, obviously, it was all new to him as well, so he was in town, and he would play 4 or 5 days a week. And so I'd show up, play. It would be 4 or 5 hours, and I'd make anywhere from $200 to $1,000.
Wow.
And depending on who was there.
Right.
And then Tim would just say, "Oh, jumping on the Gulf Stream and heading to my yacht in Cabo, whatever," and he'd be gone for a week. And so I'd have a week off. And
did he have wife, family? Or just,
yeah.
Okay.
They each had their own jets, though. So one would head to France, the other would go to Cabo. And, yeah, that's a whole nother story and lifestyle.
So how often were you at College of the Desert? Were you playing golf for the school, and were you taking classes?
I was, but
okay.
Manzoni was like, run with this.
Yeah.
I managed to still make it all work. I was taking the minimum load, some stuff in the evenings, and I was just able to do it.
And you would call home and say, "And today I caddied for."
Oh,
they're
yeah.
going, "Oh yeah, right."
Exactly.
No, and I made $1,000. Son, are you doing drugs and selling them?
Yeah, right.
They were like, "You're lying to us. There's no way this is possible."
It was. They probably wouldn't have believed me if it weren't for all the crazy pictures that I had from every day. I made sure to get pictures, every day. I mean, we're talking Arnold Palmer. I caddied for him, just me and Arnold. That was a day that Tim wasn't there. And then I went out with Fred Couples, who was like my hero growing up as a golfer, with the Masters in '92 and all that stuff. But and I have a pullover with the Cadillac the Ashworth pullover, Cadillac logo. And when we got to 15, he was like, hey, you play some golf, right? Because we'd been talking throughout. He's like, why don't you play in the last 4 with us? And, I mean, that was just,
Oh, my God.
yeah, amazing stuff.
So wait, did you play this course? Did Tim ever let you play the course?
He did, but
Okay.
it took me, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Until then I started really getting in close with Tim. And by that time, President Ford had come back a few times, and he ended up becoming like a grandfather to me. I ended up finding out that Betty Ford and I shared our birthday is the same, April 8th. And a quick story on President Ford. There was one day towards the end, it was in June, and it was like 105. He shows up, and the guy is just still a true athlete. I mean, he would swim like 20 laps every morning, and he was like, 91 or 92 at the time, and shows up at the golf course. And it's funny because I'll always remember, he would never let me drive the cart. I was terrified, by the way, like riding on the back, because he was having a hard time seeing a lot of stuff. We almost went off a cliff a couple times. And, I mean, Secret Service, so he told me, no, JJ, you can't drive because this is the only time I haven't driven in 30 years. I'm not allowed to, and so this is my time to drive. And
hop on the back.
Yeah. So this day in June, everyone's telling him, like, are you sure, Jerry? I don't know if you should be playing out here. It's a little hot. And he's like, nope, I'm playing. So we're on number 5, and he hits his 5-iron. I'm standing there. He looks back at me like usual, and he's going like this to hand me the club, and I just see his knees buckle, and he just falls, and he's falling right at me. And
so he's reaching out to you with his club in his hand.
Right. And then
you see in his eyes that he's not right.
His knees like start to buckle, and he's falling over towards me. And I just reach out like this, my natural instinct.
To grab him, catch him.
And so I look back like this, and I see Secret Service,
swarming,
2 of their carts flying up. And he's didn't know what was happening at the time, right? But I helped.
Been terrified.
We lift him up and put him into the cart, and they race him back off to their fleet of Suburbans, and they're out of there, right? So, it was. My heart's racing right now just thinking about that moment. But
wow.
So I go back home, and my roommate at the time, right? He's like, "Oh, how was your day?" Oh, it's like, I just
let me tell you,
caught President Ford, and turn on the news. We're talking like 30 minutes later. It's on CNN. President Ford collapses on golf course, and sent to Eisenhower. And so that was crazy too. But so I ended up getting a letter from Betty Ford, and I brought one of my Christmas cards here. I couldn't find the letter Betty sent me, but I brought you one of the Christmas cards from Steve Ford, his son. After that happened, it was like they really became like grandparents to me. Both of them.
You saved his life.
Yeah, I ended up getting to celebrate my next birthday with her as well. And it was amazing.
So you did bring some images in the card. I hope you don't mind if I scan them and put them on the blog post and the show notes from today. So share it.
Definitely.
Do you mind sharing these?
No, do it.
Awesome.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, I'm going to take one more break because I want to look at this card, and then we'll come back and we'll see what else you got, because this is just way too good. And I know you're going to have to go because you got to deal with the kids. But we'll do a little bit more. We'll be right back. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans 101, and the fourth of our 9 consecutive episodes dedicated to the lessons of the late Tony Manzoni, we continue to discuss how to elevate your game to the next level, one club at a time. This time we focus on your putter and the elusive lob wedge.
You know, when you're in and around the green, which is the scoring area, whether you're pitching the ball on, you want to do it the simplest way, the way that even if you miss hit it, it doesn't become a catastrophe. When you start lifting that club up and bringing it down on the ball at a more steeper angle, the miss hit is going to be horrendous, where you line drive it over the green into a lake or something like that. Where when you're using a more level to the ground stroke, if you hit a little bit thin or a little bit fat, it doesn't hurt you.
Learn more about Tony Manzoni on our website at golfsmarter.com/Tony. His book, The Lost Fundamental, One Simple Move, Better Golf Forever, is available on Amazon, and his DVD of the same name can now only be seen online through our private channel. To gain access to the video, please write to me directly by clicking on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so please follow both so that you can get a brand new episode of either when it downloads to your favorite listening device. JJ, these you probably are now just, your mind is flooding with stories that you would love to share, and I would love to hear. So we're going to have to do this again. We're definitely going to have to do this again. Let's get back to, I want to get back to Manzoni for a minute.
No, totally. I know. I'll go off on a tangent forever if you don't bring me back.
So Tony turns you on to this gig out of nowhere. You and now you're playing with him. And from what we understand, Tony's teams were very successful. Regional championships for, year after year after year for decades.
Yeah, I was probably the worst guy on the team at the time. I was always like the number 5, 6 spot.
Really?
But that being said, it's like still shooting even par, and that really tough to make the team. But it was an awesome experience.
Did he change your swing? Or did he change? What did he change in the golfer in you?
Yeah, that's right. We're here to talk about golf. That's right. Huh?
No, we're here to talk about Tony, and
exactly.
There's a lot to it. I'm just curious, is that
definitely
how he impacted your golf?
I was starting to get to that in the beginning, and then got sidetracked. But the little things Tony would do while I'd be sitting on the range. I think I mentioned I was self-taught, but. Yeah. It wasn't until I met Tony that he would just come over, and at the time I had a pretty quick swing, quick back swing, and he'd just say little things for like 30 seconds or a minute here and say, no, just take it back much slower, pretend you're slow motion going back, which it would feel to me like I was taking 5 minutes to get the club back, but it would actually look like a normal golf swing, right? So little things like that. I remember when he told me to get the weight on my left,
your lead foot.
Yeah, the insole of my left foot when I was rotating back, where in the previously I had always thought I should be more back on my right foot, but so I just would take those little tips and notice, just immediate change.
Right.
And those things.
And rotate around your lead foot. Because his whole method of the single pivot, the swing.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, he would bring me back in his office and show me videos
Hogan.
he had of Ben Hogan.
Yep.
That I was just like, where do you get these? How do you know all these people? And it makes you feel like, he has a way of making you feel special. You know, that you're somehow connected to all these people because you're able to learn through him. And gosh, so many great things. But what I take, to be quite honest, again, I know it's a golf podcast, but what I take away from Tony Manzoni more than anything is just the human being that he was and what he did for me in life. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. I wouldn't be living here. I wouldn't have had all the experiences like being sponsored to go actually out on tour for a year and a half.
Wow.
That came from Tim Blixseth, which is who he introduced me to. Mm-hmm. We didn't get into all that, but
Tim
maybe
is
another
Porcupine
time.
Ridge. Right?
Porcupine Creek.
Yep.
Yeah. So he ended up, we developed a great relationship over the years, and yeah, he ended up sponsoring me to go out on tour.
Wow.
So again, that all came from Tony. He introduced me to Davey Evans, and that's the lifelong friend that I've developed. And then Davey ended up being the guy who invested in my first startup. So after golf didn't work because I got injured, ended up becoming an entrepreneur, and that's what I do to this day.
Tell me what you do today.
What's that?
Tell me what it is that you do.
Oh, so I have a company called BuildMyBrand.xyz, and that's the umbrella parent company, and we help really just anybody who has a great idea. Maybe they've been climbing the corporate ladder for a while, and they just have no idea where to begin, where to manufacture, build a website. They come to us, we'll invest, we'll mentor them, and our team will build the project out, get it to 7 figures, and I've had 4 acquisitions now. Yeah, I've gone through 4 exits in the past 5 years.
Wow.
So I've learned a lot over the years.
Yeah.
But none of this stuff would be possible if it weren't for Tony Manzoni in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's led me down this path.
So did you finish school at College of the Desert, or did you go on beyond that?
I got my AA there, golf management.
Okay,
Then
the program that Tony started.
Yep,
mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then I ended up going on to Santa Barbara and went for business for a couple of years there. And that's when I finished Santa Barbara, I ended up trying to play on tour for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then that was short-lived.
Well, it sounds like you when you got to College of the Desert, you were grieving. You were in mourning for a friend.
Yep.
And a little bit
in a lost place.
And you were in a lost place just because you were 20 and didn't know what the heck you were going to do.
Yep.
And Tony gave you confidence. It sounds like he instilled a lot of confidence in you.
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, just the fact that he trusted me, so obviously Davey gave him a call and said, look, my boss, Tim, is looking for a caddy here. So the fact that Tony had me in his office and trusted me enough to put his reputation on the line to send me over there, that gave me a ton of confidence. And then that's when it all started. And then being around those kind of guys every day for a couple years gave me, the aspiration to strive for more in life. And it all just kind of snowballed from there.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's a great
story.
I'll forever be grateful to Tony.
Yeah.
And I'll miss him. I think about him all the time.
Sure. As do we. As do I. I speak for we with the audience, but it really is me. And, I share this so much with this audience about things like this, but it really is my life and how it's been impacted.
We need more
Tony.
people like Tony out there.
Yeah. It is a phenomenal story. I really appreciate you sharing it with us and getting in touch with me. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
and
glad to
whenever you want to tell
neighbor.
stories, man, come out in the backyard. We'll hang and I'll crack open another one for you, and we'll do this again.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
Now, if this was as entertaining for you as it was for me, then you may want to check out my blog post about this episode on golfsmarter.com, because I'm including photos that JJ has shared with me. There's a couple of them with Jerry Ford that he actually signed, like the one I'm using on today's episode cover. You'll also see JJ with Arnold Palmer, Freddy Couples, and boxer Oscar de la Hoya. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on what you'd like to hear on an upcoming interview, or ideas on what we should do to celebrate episode 800, I'd love to hear from you. Follow @GolfSmarter on social media. And when you follow on Instagram, I usually create a video with the opening tease and the episode's artwork. It's a good thing to share with your friends if you want to introduce them to our show. Also, please subscribe to Golf Smarter TV on YouTube. Or if you want to talk to me, just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.